Every independent mechanic in Australia keeps a list. It is not written down. It is not on the office wall. But every owner who has rung around for a service quote heard the same hesitation in 3 different voices and been quietly told the workshop is too busy this month, has hit the edge of it. Some cars in this country are no longer being serviced by mainstream independent workshops at all. That list is now 8 vehicles long, and if your car is on it, the next service quote you receive is going to define what your car is actually worth. 8 specific vehicles, sold across Australia in the last 7 years, are now being routinely refused or referred out by mainstream independent mechanical workshops. Not because the mechanics cannot do the work. Most of them, with the right time and the right tooling, technically could, because the commercial calculation no longer makes sense. A workshop refuses a job when the inspection time, the diagnostic equipment, the parts weight, the labor exposure, and the warranty risk on the repair add up to a transaction the workshop cannot complete profitably. When those numbers fail on the same vehicle, repeatedly, week after week, the workshop quietly removes that vehicle from its booking system. The customer rings, the receptionist apologizes, the booking does not happen. This is the 2nd episode in our ongoing investigation into the cars Australian mechanics will not work on. This episode covers the 8 vehicles not included in our first report. Some of them are mainstream, some of them are luxury. Every one of them is now being declined at independent workshops across this country. The Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association represents over 5,000 independent workshops nationally. Their 2026 first quarter industry update extended a finding from their previous report. Quote, "The proportion of vehicles presented for service that member workshops are unable to accept due to either parts supply, diagnostic complexity, or labor time exposure has now reached approximately 17% on average across the membership, with specific vehicle categories exceeding 35% refusal rates at general workshops. In plain English, the number of cars Australian independent mechanics are now refusing to service has risen from 15% in 2025 to 17% in early 2026. And on specific models, the refusal rate is more than 1 in 3. The customers being declined are not being lectured. They are simply being told the workshop cannot fit them in. And the customers walk away assuming they need to call somewhere else. They will. And the next workshop will say the same thing. 8 vehicles. Different from the 5 covered in our earlier report on cars, Australian mechanics refuse to work on. All currently on Australian roads in meaningful volume. All currently being declined or referred out by mainstream independent workshops in 2026. Brand by brand, ranked by severity of the workshop response. Here is the list in order. Refused Vehicle 1. The BMW 3 Series F30 generation, sold in Australia between 2012 and 2019. Specifically, the 320D turbocharged diesel and the 328IN 20 turbocharged petrol variants. Current workshop refusal rate at non-BMW specialist Australian independents, approximately 32%. The 328IN 20 engine has a documented timing chain guide failure pattern between 80 and 110,000 kilometers. Independent workshops will not quote without a borescope inspection. The borescope inspection itself costs the workshop time. Most workshops will not invest the time on a speculative basis. The 320D diesel carries a different but equally awkward problem. The emissions system, including the diesel particulate filter and the exhaust gas recirculation cooler, has a documented failure pattern requiring specialist diagnostic and replacement procedures. Most independent workshops do not have the BMW ISTA diagnostic software license required. They send the vehicle back to the customer with a referral to a BMW specialist workshop. The referral pattern is the soft refusal. The workshop is not telling the customer the car is uneconomic to service. The workshop is telling the customer the workshop is not the right place for it. The effect on the customer is the same. The booking does not happen at any general workshop in the country. Refused Vehicle 2. The Audi Q5 first generation 8R, sold in Australia between 2009 and 2017. Current workshop refusal rate at non-Audi specialist Australian independents, 29%. 3 independent mechanical patterns drive the workshop refusal. The Volkswagen Group 2-litre TFSI engine on petrol variants with documented oil consumption issues across the 2010 to 2014 production range. The Multitronic continuously variable transmission fitted to many Australian-delivered Q5s with documented failure patterns at higher mileage and a Volkswagen Group-specific repair procedure most general workshops will not undertake, and the Audi-specific electronic architecture requiring VAG-COM or similar Volkswagen Group diagnostic software for fault code clearing on most modern modules. From a workshop's perspective, the first-generation Q5 represents a vehicle where the diagnostic equipment investment, the parts supply complexity, and the warranty exposure on any internal engine or transmission work combine to produce a repair quote no customer will accept and no workshop will quote with confidence. The first-generation Q5 is, in early 2026, the most quietly refused luxury SUV at general workshops across Australia. Owners are routinely told to find an Audi specialist. Audi specialists exist. There are not many of them, and the specialist labour rate sits between 30 and 70% above the general workshop rate, which is exactly the kind of holding cost that, multiplied across the remaining service life of the vehicle, defines the resale loss. Refused Vehicle 3, the Citroen C5 Aircross, sold in Australia between 2019 and 2024. Current workshop refusal rate at general Australian independent workshops, 38%. The highest pure numerical refusal rate on this list. The reason for the C5 Aircross refusal pattern is structural rather than mechanical. Citroen withdrew from the Australian market in 2024, with the final sales completed in early 2025. Parts supply continues officially through Stellantis Australia channels, but routes through the Peugeot dealer network for service support. For a general independent workshop in 2026, presented with a 2021 or 2022 C5 Aircross, the workshop is being asked to source parts through a former competitor brand's dealer chain on a vehicle whose original brand has publicly exited the market, in a segment where used buyer interest has effectively collapsed. Most general workshops decline. The customer is referred to a Peugeot dealership. The Peugeot dealership labour rate is higher than the general independent rate. The customer is therefore facing a permanent increased service cost on a vehicle whose resale value is being simultaneously depressed by the brand exit. The combination compounds against the vehicle's overall ownership economics in a way the customer did not anticipate at purchase. And the workshop, walking the customer back to the car park with a polite apology, has just demonstrated exactly how brand exits translate, in practical terms, into individual financial loss. If you own any of the vehicles on this list, the next service call you make will tell you everything. This channel publishes a new investigation every week into exactly what is moving in the Australian car market. Workshop refusals, trade-in refusals, brand exits, resale collapses, industry shifts, the data the dealers and the mechanics already have, presented to the people who actually need it. Subscribe to the Calder report, tap the bell. Every video could save you thousands of dollars on the car already in your driveway. Refused Vehicle 4, the Mini Countryman F60 generation, sold in Australia between 2017 and 2024. Current workshop refusal rate at general Australian independents, 27%. The Mini Countryman is, in mechanical terms, a BMW. The F60 platform is shared with the BMW X1 and X2. The engines are BMW. The electronics are BMW. The diagnostic software requirements are BMW, none of which is communicated to the average Mini owner when they buy the car. The Mini brand markets the vehicle as a friendly, accessible, design-led small SUV. The reality on the workshop floor is that the Countryman requires the same BMW diagnostic equipment, the same BMW parts supply chain, and the same BMW labour expertise as any other BMW product. For a general Australian independent workshop, A Countryman F60 is a BMW workshop case, dressed as a Mini. The workshop either has BMW capability and accepts it, or does not, and declines. Most do not. And the customer, expecting the affordable boutique car experience the marketing promised, encounters the BMW specialist labor rate environment instead. The retention figures reflect the gap between marketing positioning and ownership reality. F60 Countryman trade-in valuations sit below comparable Mazda CX-30 or Toyota CHR equivalents, despite higher original drive-away prices. Refused Vehicle 5. The Skoda Kodiaq sold in Australia between 2017 and 2025. Current workshop refusal rate at general Australian independents, 25%. The Kodiaq carries the most direct Volkswagen Group inheritance of any vehicle on this list. The DSG dual-clutch gearbox, the 2-litre TSI petrol or TDI diesel engines, the Volkswagen Group electronic architecture, the mechatronic unit failure pattern shared across every Volkswagen Group vehicle of that era. And here is what makes the Kodiaq refusal pattern different from the Tegan refusal pattern. Skoda's Australian dealer network is materially smaller than Volkswagen's. There are approximately 70 Skoda dealer points across the country, compared to over 200 Volkswagen dealer points. For a general independent workshop presented with a Kodiaq, the referral options narrow significantly. The workshop cannot easily refer the customer to a nearby Skoda dealer in most regional areas. The workshop cannot accept the job without Volkswagen Group diagnostic capability. The customer is therefore caught in a service environment where neither the convenient option nor the technically equipped option is locally available. Owners of 2018 to 2022 Kodiaqs are now experiencing this directly. The car is mechanically sound. The service environment is not. Refused Vehicle 6. The Peugeot 3008 second generation, sold in Australia between 2017 and 2024. Current workshop refusal rate at general Australian independents, 31%. Peugeot Australia operates a contracting dealer network. The Stellantis Australian footprint, which Peugeot now sits within, has continued to consolidate across 2024 and 2025 with multiple dealer point closures publicly announced. For independent workshops, the 3008 presents 3 compounding refusal triggers: the PSA-specific EAT 8-speed automatic transmission, requiring proprietary fluid specifications and service procedures; the PSA HDI diesel engine variants, with specific timing belt and emissions service intervals not familiar to most general workshops; and the Peugeot-specific Diagbox diagnostic software, which costs approximately $3,000 per workshop annually for licensing. Most general workshops will not invest in Peugeot-specific tooling for the small fraction of their customer base presenting Peugeots. The economic logic does not support it. The result is referral to one of the contracting Peugeot dealer network points, often in a different suburb or different city, at a higher labor rate. 3-year-old 3008 trade-in valuations sit around 44% of original drive-away price. That figure is directly connected to the workshop access constraint. Used buyer's price in the difficulty of getting the car serviced at any general workshop. The trade-in offers reflect what those used buyers will eventually pay. Refused Vehicle 7. The Volvo XC60 first generation, sold in Australia between 2008 and 2017. Current workshop refusal rate at general Australian independents, 28%. The first generation XC60 has aged into a vehicle that combines 2 independent refusal triggers. First, the Volvo VIDA diagnostic software, required for any modern Volvo module fault clearing or programming. Most general Australian workshops do not have VIDA capability. Second, the vehicle's age, with most surviving examples now between 9 and 17 years old, requires the kind of cumulative inspection time that small independent operations cannot allocate efficiently. The combination produces a workshop response that the customer interprets as reluctance. The reality is that the workshop calculates the inspection and diagnostic time as not commercially viable for an older Volvo with specialist software requirements. Older Volvo specialist workshops do exist in Australia, particularly in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Outside those metropolitan areas, owners face a service environment with very few qualified options. The result, for regional owners particularly, is an effective service availability constraint that the buyer did not anticipate when the car was 3 years old and still under warranty. Older XC60 retention figures reflect this. Wholesale auction prices for 2014 to 2016 XC60 models have fallen below the equivalent figures for comparable older Lexus, Toyota, or even Mazda SUVs, despite the original price difference being significantly higher. Refused Vehicle 8, the Ford Kuga second generation, sold in Australia between 2013 and 2020. Current workshop refusal rate at General Australian Independents, 26%. And the Kuga is the most surprising vehicle on this list, because by every reasonable measure, the Kuga should be a workshop-accepted vehicle. The platform is shared with the Ford Focus. The engines are mainstream Ford products. The parts supply chain runs through Ford Australia's continuing dealer network. The refusal trigger is none of those things. It is the PowerShift dual-clutch transmission. The PowerShift transmission, fitted to most Australian Kuga units, has one of the most documented failure patterns of any mainstream automatic transmission sold in this country in the last 15 years. Multiple Australian class action proceedings against Ford Australia reference the PowerShift issue. Replacement and overhaul costs run between $6,000 and $9,000, depending on workshop and parts sourcing. Most general independent workshops have, after multiple failed PowerShift jobs across 2020 and 2021, removed the Kuga from their booking eligibility list. Not officially, not in writing, but functionally. The customer rings. The workshop is too busy. The customer rings the next one. Same response. And the Kuga, mechanically simpler than every other vehicle on this list, sits at the center of one of the highest workshop refusal rates in mainstream Australian motoring, purely because of one specific transmission decision Ford made in 2010. Every vehicle on this list shares one thing. The workshop refusing the booking is not the problem. The workshop refusing the booking is the warning. Australian independent mechanical workshops are commercial operations. They survive by accepting the jobs they can complete profitably and declining the ones they cannot. A workshop that quietly removes a specific vehicle from its booking eligibility is not making a moral judgment about that vehicle. It is making the only commercial decision available given the diagnostic equipment, the parts supply, and the labor exposure on that specific model. When multiple workshops independently make the same decision on the same vehicle, the pattern stops being about individual workshops and starts being about the vehicle itself. That pattern is now visible in the auction data. It is visible in the wholesale market. It is visible in the trade-in valuations. It is visible in every commercial signal the used car industry produces. The owners of the vehicles in question are the last people in the chain to see it. They see the workshop telling them they are too busy. They do not see the system underneath that response. They go home and assume the workshop was simply unhelpful. The workshop was being helpful in the only way it could afford to be. Here is what every Australian owner should do this week. Ring 3 independent workshops in your area. Not dealers, independents. Tell them the year, make, model, and variant of your car. Ask if they can book you in for a major service in the next 3 weeks. If all 3 confirm a booking, your car is in the 83% the workshops will still accept. You are fine. If 2 out of 3 pause, refer you to a specialist, or tell you they are fully booked for the next several weeks, your car is on the quiet list. That 5-minute phone exercise is the single most accurate market intelligence test available to any Australian car owner. It is more accurate than any valuation tool, any review site, and any dealer quote, because the workshop response is not opinion. It is commercial decision-making in real time, based on the same data the entire used car industry is reading. The benchmark, the same one we use in every report on this channel, is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. 81 to 84% retained at 3 years. Accepted at every independent workshop in Australia without hesitation. across major cities and regional towns alike, with a workshop refusal rate of approximately 0%. The brands that protect your investment are the ones the workshops still want on the lift, with workshop refusal rates exceeding 35% on specific models. That list is shorter, more urgent, and more financially significant than at any point in modern Australian motoring. Subscribe to the Calder Report. Tap the bell. Every week, we show you exactly what is moving in the Australian car market before it moves past you.